So I finally watched In a Violent Nature. This is a movie that was pretty hyped up as a Shudder original and as a movie with the premise of what if a slasher flick was from the perspective of the killer? That was very interesting to me. And now, usually I don't really like slashers because I think that they can just kind of be pretty boring. Um, Unless they have like a really cool monster with them, something like Scream or Friday the 13th or Halloween, right? Those movies I can really get a pass with, but other ones I just feel are pretty boring. But with this one, I thought was really interesting, and I went to go look up reviews for it, and it had about a 7.5. One said that it was released in January of 2023, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. But no, it was actually released only 2 months ago now, in May of 24. And I was really excited for it because I saw it on Twitter about people being hyped up for it, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to definitely watch this and give my opinion on it. So let's get into it. This is going to be a rundown of the movie and also going to be my thoughts and opinions on it as well. I have a bunch of notes here that I took while I was watching it. So, the movie starts really interestingly, and it does one of the coolest things I've seen in a horror movie, and that is that a lot of times the human characters, or characters that aren't like the focus, aren't ever in view most of the times, and I thought that was really cool. So we come out to this old shack, and these two dudes, I think his name is Colt, or Colton, or Cold, I don't know, and this other guy that we later see in the film, finding this gold necklace, and they take it, they're like, oh, was it supposed to be here? And so they take it, and this awakens this Jason Voorhees-esque monster that we later find out is named Johnny. Now, I don't know what his slasher name is going to be, if it's just going to be Johnny, or if it's going to be Johnny Killer, or Killer Johnny, or Johnny Hook Hands, or what have you. But I thought it was really interesting how, which it kind of doesn't make sense of why there's this tube that was kind of like feeding him air, and then he like comes out of it. But I did think it was really interesting how he was underground and he like comes out, right, and he, like, pulls himself out. He's like all in chains and everything. I thought it was really, really cool that we got to see really a new horror monster that isn't just the run-of-the-mill killer or something. Because for the past many years in horror, we've had many the same type of killer over and over and over, like same monster. It's just a human in a mask. There was that with the Intruder movie thing, where there's, like the doorbells, and then there's obviously the Purge movies. So a lot of those were just people in masks. They weren't really monsters. So seeing this guy that comes back from the dead have a really unique design of all the chains on him, and he's like all grotesque, and and you don't really actually get to see his face until halfway through the movie. I thought it was really cool. And I have it in my notes here that I mentioned that it reminded me of Dead by Daylight killers, where you can definitely see the influence, but they are very much their own. I thought it was also really cool how instead of just following him, one, it's always from the back for most of the film. I thought that was really interesting, and I thought that was a really creative idea. But instead of just watching him walk all the time, it cuts a lot, and it's still same position, but like different times of the day, and like him coming upon different things. We see that he sees this dead dog, I think it is, or maybe a coyote, whatever you want to say, in the ground, and it's been trapped by bear traps, and it's all rotted away, and he's looking at it, and he kind of like kicks it, and it made me think, what if this is like a killer that's kind of like one of those things where he's a force of nature that's kind of like going on penance of humanity kind of thing, like he's a friend of nature or whatnot. Later in the film, that's kind of disproven, but it's never really outwardly not disproven, because we find out later that Johnny was a guy who killed a bunch of lumber workers. So potentially that still lines up. He killed lumber workers because he was a friend of nature and he didn't like what they were doing. I also think it was really funny is that the way that it starts, the way that the movie starts is almost as though it's already 15 minutes into another horror movie. Like, like if you've ever watched original horror movies, like there's at least a good 15 minutes before something happens, where the monster comes for the first time. And seeing as how it's all about the monster and the monster is just now coming apart, or coming about, we're kind of stumbling in to a horror movie like 15 minutes in. And I will say now that there are parts of this movie where, like, I looked and I'm like, oh, it's about to be over. And it's like, nope, there's 15 minutes left. And I was like, what? And then something happens, like, okay, now I get it. And then there's another 15 minutes left. I thought also, so we see him like walking and like he doesn't stop. He's not like stalking or anything. He's just walking. These other guys are like facing behind him, and he's just like walking behind them because they don't see him. Because they're always turned around at the right moment to not see him. And it's really funny because if the camera was over there, you would be able to see him. And he doesn't stalk at all during this film. I think there's like one time where he stops and stands and watches people. But he's always on the move. He's always doing something. He walks into this guy's house, and I think he finds the necklace. And I say in my notes, it's like, oh, is it his dad? No, it's a fake necklace. It's a different necklace, but it tells us now that he's after the necklace. And then he fights against Chuck, the guy that it says bad motherfucker on his, or professional pro motherfucker or whatever it was on his hat or whatever. And he chases him after he I forget what he did. No, he didn't do anything to him. He got away, and then he got in one of his own bear traps, which I thought was really some interesting comeuppance. And he's just walking after him, and it reminded me of how scary humans are because we're persistence hunters. There can be like gazelles out in the savannah that, can run at 40, 50 miles an hour, but they get tired. We don't. We just keep walking after them until they get worn out, and then we club them to death. And that's basically what happened here. And we don't see for a moment of like what he actually did. There's a really cool cut of where his hand reaches forward, and then it cuts to where it's all bloody, reaching towards the necklace. And then he goes back outside to find the actual real necklace, and we see that this guy's just fucked up. His arm's torn off, his head's caved in, his chest is all fucked up, and he's just sitting there. And he got fucked up, which I thought was really cool. And it really introduces us to how the kills in this movie are really brutal, and I really, really enjoyed them. Again, a lot of walking in this movie, of just him walking and walking and walking. And it really does answer a question I always used to think when I was little, or not little, but when I was younger, of watching horror movies is, what are these killers up to whenever no one's around or they're not killing anybody? And this answers it. They're walking. That's all they're doing. Because if they don't stop, they don't need to stop. They don't have, they have insane endurance. They just keep walking. that eventually they can just walk towards their next victim and then kill them, keep walking, find another person, keep walking, kill another person. And eventually time will pass, right? And if you're just walking through a forest, time will pass. It's now nighttime. People are out. Oh, kill, kill, kill. Daybreak. Oh, we gotta run. Final girl situation. Run, run, run. Oh, keep walking. More people show up. Kill, kill, kill. Keep walking. And then he finds the people at the bonfire. And as I was watching it, I was like, I kept looking in the background, trying to see if I could find him. And I couldn't see him until the film shows us. And like, he is stalking. And then, obviously, we get to the actual human characters. Something really funny, like, not funny, but like, I thought was kind of weird. It also, happened where like one of the characters is trying to explain the story, and it just so happens to be what happened with Johnny, to give us a bit of a lore dump. And one of the characters goes, and like someone goes, no, don't get canceled, and I was like, what? He was just going to say like rapist or something. And it took me a second to realize he was going to say the R slur, and I was like, oh, duh, that's why. They're assholes, so of course they're going to say that. Like, all these characters are just a bunch of assholes. Like, genuinely, like they all suck. They all call each other slow, or like as an insult, and like really being really demeaning, and then like the boyfriend is really mean to his girlfriend, and like she's like the only nice one, and it plays into the tropes of horror movies a lot, like where there's one good girl that ends up being the final girl. And here we go. Get to the kills. This first one, nasty. Finds a saw in like a shed. All right, sees this guy that almost said the R word come outside. And he was going to go, like, I guess he was just going to go take a shit and not go whoever the gas station girls were. Again, we were already 15 minutes into the movie, so if this was from the perspective of them, we would have seen this happen. He comes up behind him, he's listening to this music, and he takes the saw and basically garrote wires him, but instead of on his neck, it's against his mouth, and then pulls it, and then slices the top of his head off. And it just falls. He then carries him for like 15 minutes and goes to like this park ranger station thing, or like museum or whatever. Punches the glass and tosses the sliced in half head in. And you can actually really tell that the head was fake whenever he did that. But the sound it made was really grody. Also, I have a rating for all these kills. 7 out of 10. You think he's alive after that? And we also find out that it takes place in 2014, which makes sense because of how old the iPhones were. I saw that like one of them had like an iPhone 10, and I was like, that's really weird. Why is there an iPhone 10 in a 2024 movie? But it's supposed to be like a period piece or whatever. We then see that there's these old firefighting uniforms and so on, and like equipment and so on. And he uses the body to break the glass, just head first throws it and then takes it. And then we get this like really cool look now. He's got a bawling design with the antique firefighter mask, and then he has his iconic, I guess will become his iconic like kill stuff, which is the hook and the axe. And we see these two girls that are flirting with each other on the dock, and he's in the background, and he slams his axe into a log, and then just walks into the water, and apparently just walks across the riverbed. And my first thought whenever I saw that was, bro is setting up a combo. Because what I thought what he was going to do was he was going to drown one of the girls, and then it was going to pull one of the other ones in, pull them out of the river and then kill them with the axe. But no, he's just preparing. This kill with one of the girls in the river swimming, it was cool. Dragged to the bottom. I say about a 3 out of 10. Not too flashy, just a drown, but a cool execution, as in he just walks all across the riverbed. I have here in my notes, Johnny's a very cold killer. Oh, and then we get to one of my, I think my, at the time it was my favorite until I got later into the movie. My favorite kills is the girl doing yoga, where she's at this cliffside, and oh, shut up, that was my work alarm, but I'm already doing work. Where he he comes up to her, and she turns around and she screams, and like she can't back up because, you know, she's at a cliff edge, and he, no hesitate, she like turns around and he's just keep walking up, no hesitation, shoves this hook into her. And it's not just, you know, hook, stab. No, his entire fist goes through her. And then what he does is he spins her around, pulls the chain out, slams the hook into the top of her skull, spins her around again with the chain coming through her stomach, and then pulls her head through her stomach, and like her neck breaks, and she's like folded over and everything. I thought it was very like Mortal Kombat. It was cartoonishly gory, but I thought it was fucking awesome. I thought it was very cool. I think the only thing that keeps it from being a 10 out of 10 was that he didn't pull the head out of all the way through, and like was carrying around her head that was all bloodied and like with the spine coming off of it, and then he just kicked her down the hill. We then so I'm just going to do some rapid fire things. Is that we then see him playing with a car because some guys threw keys, and then we actually get to see his face, and like he and I thought it was really cute that he was like playing with the car, because you can kind of see that like, yeah, he's kind of like an innocent guy. He's what he's doing is just kind of like almost like instinctual or whatever, but and the full face reveal is it is really interesting, is that he kind of does look like somebody that would have Down syndrome, as in what it was implied to be, as that he was like supposed to be like special ed or like mentally handicapped. And I'm going to say this right now as I got to it in my notes. I was a little bit on the fence about how we have a mentally disabled guy that comes back as a violent killer, or is implied to be a violent killer in the past because of that. And if done in the wrong way, it paints neurodivergence in a bad light as being violent. If it was purposefully malicious. But I also think that it was just supposed to be a cool idea. That was it. It wasn't supposed to be malicious. It wasn't supposed to be like playing into stereotypes or anything like that. It was just supposed to be like kind of tragic, right? And it is. And when it is that way, and it's not supposed to be something that you point and laugh at, it is tragic. And I think I really like that. Also, after this, we get some really cool kills. He uses a horn to draw somebody out of the cabin. And this was the only time where he didn't just walk. He was power walking, but it was not a jog. And he comes around and somebody sees him out the window, and they're like, and he comes up behind him, and I don't know if he says die or something, or like maybe it's the guy that he's trying to kill, but he raises up the axe and is about to kill the guy, and he turns around and he catches catches his hand and like and dodges out of the way of it. I think he might have punched him or something. And I was like, damn, fast as fuck reflexes. We then get some really cool stuff with like the guy like shooting him down with like this Winchester lever action. And you think that they're going to get away, but immediately Johnny just gets back up, grabs the axe, throws it, long range kill. I'd say that was an 8 out of 10. And then we get another one where he picks up a rock on this guy that he had sliced into his leg, lifts up the rock, and then fucking Cain enables him. 8.5, I'll give that one. Maybe an 8.6. I thought it was also really interesting how he then gets distracted by the necklace as he sees it around the girl's neck. As they're like trying to scramble to get away, and it causes him to miss the axe throw. And right here, I made a theory of like, I wonder if the movie will end with him being given the necklace back and going away. And now after this, we find that they're back at the camp or whatever, or like the museum, and we get to find actually everything that was going on, and the whole lore with Johnny. Was he killed a logging camp, he then got killed by one of the people in the logging camp, then 10 years later he came back, and the survivor of that killed him again, came back 10 years later, it was logging camp, he kills a logging camp, gets killed by a survivor there, comes back 10 years later, gets killed again by the son of that survivor, and then it's another 10 years where he's now back again. And then we come to one of the craziest kills in the entire thing, is where the ranger guy has his back broken to where he's paralyzed. And I hear the noises. I'm like, oh my God, is that a chainsaw? And then he comes out and he's nothing. And I'm like, oh my God, is it a wood chipper? And nope. And then he gets dragged into it, and it's an automatic wood splitter. So you put the log here, and then like this thing comes and like splits it in half. And I'm like, oh, he's gonna fuck him up. He starts by pointing his arm into it, and then it slices his arm off. And I thought he was gonna like go through like all of his limbs and then like slice his head off. But no, he just slices one of the arms off, and then he slices his head off. Which, 9.5, really unique, really creative kill. But I think it would have been way cooler is if he was like laid flat onto it and had the thing like slice him like from pelvis to like face, right? Like an actual log. And then we get to where they're like trying to plan. We're further into the movie, near the very, very end. Actually, I want to mention a really cool thing. Was one of the really cool parts was after his arm got cut off by the woodcutter machine, is that the blood is all red, like really deep, dark red. But then as soon as his head gets cut off, it's really bright red that then mixes in with the black. And that's because, obviously, in the head, it's arterial blood, which is oxygenated and brighter. And it's mixing with the dark vein blood, which is deoxygenated and, is moving through and so on, and is sort of cycling through the rest of the body. And I thought that was really cool because it was like had this really cool mixing effect. We now get to the 10 out of 10 kill in this, and that is where this guy is standing behind. I don't know how he got behind him. I think he just snuck up behind him. And they're like, yeah, go take him back to like the fire lookout, and then we will burn him and all this other stuff. And he turns around and he goes, "Come and get me, you ugly bat!" And he just Johnny just turns around, slices him, just goes, wham! Slices his skull in half, and he just goes, and he like does this really robotic movement, goes, and just keeps fucking whamming on him, and he goes, I thought that was so fucking cool. He's just fucking whamming on him, dude. Absolutely fucking just brutalizing this dude. And we get to the final girl trope where it's the last girl alive, but we don't see her like do anything like badass like we do in the normal tropes, which is a very like, juxtaposition and kind of twisting your expectations. and she's holding this bear trap in this gas canister, and just watching this guy get fucking beat the shit out of with an axe. She just lowers everything down. She's like, I'm not built for this. Takes off the necklace, puts on the gas can, and then runs away. We get like 10 minutes, like 5 minutes of her running, and then eventually she comes across the car. And by the way, as she's running, we constantly hear the slamming of Johnny like killing this guy, which makes me wonder, was he following her, just slamming the axe into this guy? Or was it like PTSD kind of thing? Or was she just like running in circles as he just keeps slamming on her? I sent me on this guy. Anyway, we see this old woman find the girl, and she takes her to a hospital, or is on the way to a hospital. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, is this the mom? Is this the mom? Is this like, Jason Voorhees kind of thing? But no, it's not. It is, it was not a mom kind of leading for the final kill. They just go and they leave, and she goes on this story about how a bear that just attacked her brother, and it was talking about Hin syndrome, and it really did explain like what was going on with Johnny. Even though Johnny has a purpose, which is the necklace, but also kind of like gives like another idea to kind of play around with in your head of why he's also doing it. Is that he's kind of just now a wild animal. He's no longer a person. He is just base instincts. Even if he was mentally handicapped beforehand, now he is just like an animal, right? Because he was dead, and mental faculties and everything, degrading and everything like that. Also, they come to a stop because she's about to like pass out from blood loss, and the mom like takes a belt, makes like a temporary tourniquet. Not the mom, because she's not the mom, but the old woman puts on the other woman's like leg, and she's like freaking out. She's like, "Oh no, he's gonna come! He's gonna come!" And I said it in my notes. I was like, if he comes out here and like finally kills both of them or whatever, I'm gonna drop the movie. Because how the fuck does he catch up to a 45-mile-per-hour truck driving down a trail that's been driving for like 10 minutes? And no, they didn't. He didn't catch up to him. And then after like this really cool scene of like her face being zoomed in on, and then zooming out into like the thicket, and then we come across the bear trap and the gas canister, and it's like really slow. It's like, did he take the necklace? Did he not? Did he take it? No, he not. And it turns out he did. He took it. And I guess that means that he's done. He's done killing. He doesn't have a reason to. Even though it was said by the ranger that it wouldn't work, apparently it did work. And then the movie ends with Ontario or whatever song. The entire movie is only like an hour and a half, like an hour 35 minutes long, and I really liked it. I really, really did. I liked the cinematography. I liked the idea and the execution. I really liked the kills. I liked the costume design. I liked the story and kind of like not the pseudo lore, but the lore that was kind of like played into it. Because it really seems that the writers made a horror movie first, and then was like, all right, now let's just put it in the perspective of the killer, and it cuts out like fucking 45 minutes. And I thought that was really cool. Like, all the characters have character. Like, they were writing these characters to be something as if they were the focus, but they're not of this. I'd give it a solid like 7.5. I think it does drag on at some points, but it comes and it executes. It's not, a masterpiece of film or literature or fiction or whatever. It's a fun time, and it comes of what it's going to do, and it does it. And I give it props for that. So 7.5 to 7.8. If I really want to be very, very conservative, I give it like just a solid 7. But if I wanted to be very, very generous, I'd say like a 7.8. I really, really liked it. If you want to watch it yourself, go watch it. It's not in theaters anymore, but I'm sure you can find it on fucking some website. That's how I did it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts if you saw it down in the comments. If you have any questions, ask them down in the comments, I guess, and we can talk about it. Other than that, if you have any movies I should watch and get my thoughts on and my review on and my little analysis thing. Sorry that this video was just me kind of like restating it, but what I like to do whenever I review movies is I like to say what happens, but also give my thoughts and my opinion on them as they go on. Better than most video essays where it's just the bare surface idea of what's going on. It's just a retelling. I bet you know what those kind of video essays are. Anyway, if you want to support me, I have a Patreon down below. There's multiple tiers. Any amount will do. If you only want a one-time donation, I have a CashApp down below as well. Like, comment, subscribe. Do all that stuff if you want to be notified. Hit the bell. Don't do it if you don't want to be notified. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Bye-bye.